2 pumpkins. That's
I'm going to call the meeting to order. I would remind everyone to silence your cell phones so that we won't have a problem there. And at this point, I would like to ask Hannah Gage to lead us in the invocation.
May we bow our head. God of justice and mercy, we pray today for strength to complete the task before us. We pray for wisdom to discern the best courses of action to uphold our responsibilities to the university and to those we serve. We pray for compassion for those whose lives are affected by our decisions, that we might decide with fairness and justice. We pray for courage to know and to do the right thing in the midst of competing voices. And we pray for grace to hear one another faithfully, to listen carefully, and to treat each other and our constituents with dignity and respect. Hear these prayers, we ask, and help us to know the guidance of your grace and wisdom. Amen.
Thank you, Hannah. This morning, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill is holding its 3rd annual Memorial Stair Run in remembrance of the victims of the 9/11 attacks. The event honors and remembers the 2,996 victims and recognizes the efforts of the first responders. I would like to ask for a brief moment of silence to honor the sacrifices of these brave individuals. Thank you very much. I would now like to ask Secretary Perry to call the roll.
Chairman Bissett.
Oh, I'm here. I think. Very good, Luke. You can see I'm writing.
Vice Chairman Aiken. Ms. Burris Floyd. Mr. Byers.
Here.
Mr. Davenport.
Here.
Ms. Finnegan.
Here.
Mrs. Gage.
Here.
Mr. Goolsby. Mr. Goolsby. Mr. Granger. Mr. Granger. Mr. Hinton.
Here.
Mr. Holmes.
Here.
Mr. Hood. Mr. Hood. Mr. Knott.
Present.
Mr. Cotis.
Here.
Mr. Lampy.
Here.
Mr. Long.
Here.
Mrs. McNeil.
Here.
Ms. Maxwell.
Here.
Mr. Alex Mitchell. Here. Mr. Champ Mitchell.
Here.
Mrs. Nelson.
Here.
Mr. Parrish.
Here.
Mr. Pickett.
Here.
Mr. Powers. Mr. Powers. Mr. Rippey.
Here.
Mr. Sloan.
Here.
Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith. Mr. Souza.
Here.
Mr. Sawasink.
Here.
Mr. Webb.
Here.
Mrs. Wiley.
Here.
Mr. Williford.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Secretary Perry. The State Ethics Act took effect on January 1, 2007, and all of the voting members of the Board of Governors are covered by the Act. Under the Act, you have a duty to avoid conflicts of interest and appearances of conflicts. Looking at the agenda for today's meeting, does anyone know that you have a conflict of interest or an interest that would give rise to the appearance of a conflict of interest? If so, let me know now. Yes, Mr. Long.
Mr. Chairman, item 6A regarding NC State and 6C regarding Fayetteville State.
Thank you, Mr. Long. As we begin the business portion of the meeting, I would like to remind everyone, as I do every month, of the board's expectations for conduct at our meetings. We ask that those attending today remain respectful of fellow attendees and the board. Those attending an official meeting may not engage in conduct that interferes with the rights of others to observe and listen to the proceedings. Any individual who disrupts the meeting will be asked to leave and may be subject to arrest. So thank you. We have had very few problems in recent months, and I'm sure we will not have any today, so thank you very much for being so respectful. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the open session of the meeting of Friday, July 29th. Do I have a motion?
I move.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, any changes, additions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Now I'd like to call on President Spellings for her report.
Good morning, all. I'd like to start by recognizing Representative John Fraley, who's here with us for the second day. Where are you, Representative Fraley? Thank you for your interest in our work. We appreciate your colleagues being with us yesterday and look forward to working with you, especially around the board's strategic plan. I'd also like to recognize Eric Naisbitt from Senator Barefoot's office, who's with us as well. Thank you, Eric. I also want to take a moment to recognize NC Central Provost Johnson Akinlehi. Where are you, Johnson? There you are. For stepping into the role of acting chancellor. Thank you for that. Our thoughts and good wishes, of course, are with Chancellor Deb Saunders-White as she focuses on her health. And I know she's very grateful, as we all are, Johnson, to have you at the helm of the institution. You're a very capable leader, and we extend our best wishes to you. Heading into the board meeting last week, I was thinking about a report issued almost 10 years ago by the Commission on the Future of Higher Education, convened during my time as U.S. Secretary of Education, which was launched in Charlotte about 10 years ago. That bipartisan group of experts from across the country identified the key issues confronting American colleges and universities back then. And while we have made some progress, I'm struck by just how many of those core issues of student outcomes and success, affordability, accessibility, remain front and center in our work today. It's a pleasure to be with you to tackle these issues and to prove that public education can adapt to a new era and remain a driving force for social and economic mobility of the people of our state and nation. As I said yesterday, your efforts to develop a strategic plan for the university will underpin everything we do in the years ahead, defining our aspirations and creating the policies and incentives that will get us there. As became apparent during our committee meetings, the strategic planning process has begun with a lot of listening to faculty, chancellors, students, legislators, board members, researchers, and taxpayers from across the state who have ideas about our work. This will not be a top-down plan. It can't be if it's going to be effective, and that's why we must be very deliberative and inclusive as we set goals and define success. As you've heard me say, we have terrific and talented people in our institutions and here at General Administration, and I firmly believe that they can move mountains if we give them the tools, the clarity of mandate, and the autonomy to do it. Right now, we aren't paying for the results that we say we want. One of the core themes that's emerging from our discussion so far is the crucial need to align our policies and resources with performance, to reward our institutions not only for recruiting and enrolling students, but for getting them successfully on a path to graduation as quickly as possible to produce meaningful outcomes for them and our state. We heard some of this from Matthew Pellis yesterday in his overview of approaches being tested around the country. We all know the immense value of higher education when students of all kinds can access it affordably and complete a degree efficiently and effectively, and we must communicate that value more clearly. In addition, we must be smarter about how we use the system as a platform and more thoughtful about how we leverage the unique strengths of each institution to achieve our goals. These are detailed, challenging issues to sort through, and I know we are up to the task. Of course, the regular business of the university doesn't pause while we take on strategic planning. Last month, we convened an Elizabeth City State University working group to examine strategies for strengthening campus operations around recruitment and enrollment, academic programming, and finance. And I want to thank board members Steve Long and Harry Smith, along with Elizabeth City trustees Paul Norman and Jan King Robinson, for offering their time and expertise to support the working group. Chancellor Thomas Conway will chair this group, and we look forward to working with him. Chancellor Conway is doing extraordinary work to put his institution on firm ground, and he and his team are asking the right questions and making the difficult decisions needed. The working group will include help and expertise for ECSU and make sure we have the right policies in place to help the Chancellor execute our shared vision for ECSU. While enrollment numbers for this year fell short, we have a game changer in the form of affordable tuition and public interest that will come with it. Elizabeth City offers a solid education at tremendous value, and the ECSU Working Group will also, of course, focus on how to make the most of the NC Promise opportunity. In keeping with our task force theme, we also have a group working on the broader implementation of NC Promise, and I want to applaud the bill's authors, Senators Berger and Apodaca, for their commitment to affordability and access for all of our state students, but most especially our rural population. I also want to thank Chancellors Belcher, Cummings, and Conway. I believe this is an enormous opportunity for North Carolina and a real boon for students at these institutions. Having a clearly affordable option within reach of all North Carolinians goes right to our core mission and our constitutional obligation to keep tuition as free as practicable, and I'm thrilled that we had the chance to implement this plan. We'll also be examining how to implement the guaranteed tuition provisions for all of our institutions this year. There are details to be hashed out to make the plan work, and we're committed to doing it in a way that benefits students, provides stability for institutions, and gives clarity to students and parents weighing their college options. And thank you to chancellors and board members for that work. In addition, during the last session, the General Assembly adopted an important legislation providing funding for lab schools. The university will be working with partners across the state to establish 8 public laboratory schools serving children in grades K through 8. Our goal will be to expand student opportunities for educational success through high quality and innovative instructional programming and research. We expect the schools will also provide exposure and training to teachers and principals to successfully address challenges in high-need school settings. Shifting gears, as you know, the U.S. District Court recently concluded that House Bill 2 violates Title IX and issued a preliminary injunction curtailing enforcement of House Bill 2. As we have emphasized, the university is committed to maintaining a welcome and inclusive environment consistent with our non-discrimination policies, and we look forward to a speedy resolution of these matters. On the healthcare front, last month, we convened representatives of UNC Chapel Hill, UNC Healthcare, East Carolina, and Vidant Health to begin a series of discussions about the university's role in meeting the health needs of our citizens and the requirements of the university system to educate the workforce who will serve them. There have been major changes in the healthcare landscape over the past few years, as we all know, and I suspect that we're going to see even more. Given all of that, we need a holistic approach, and this seemed like the right time to get key people around the table to share ideas, raise concerns, and work together to maximize the university's impact across the state. My thanks to Peter Hans for helping to facilitate this project. I'd like to take a moment to note that over 225,000 students returned to class in our institutions last month. I spent time with the faculty assembly last week, and you can absolutely feel the energy coming through the group as the semester gets underway. We spend a great deal of time here at General Administration and the Board of Governors dealing with problems and contentious issues, responding to the challenges that emerge when we oversee a $9 billion enterprise. As we start a new academic year, it's worth remembering the sheer scale of what goes right every single day. The students, faculty, and staff who turn the closing weeks of summer into a season of possibility. The best part of this job is learning a little more each day from these remarkable people. Finally, it's my pleasure to introduce you to some remarkable people now here at General Administration, our 5 faculty fellows who will be spending the year with us. As I've said many times, I'm conscious of the fact that we don't educate students here at General Administration, we don't make scientific breakthroughs, and we don't cure the sick or produce great art. Our job is to empower the people who do all of that, and our faculty fellows will help us do that better. So for starters, Dr. Joseph Kazir from Appalachian State University. Dr. Kazir, there you are, has been instrumental in the evolution of the University Innovation Council and provides expertise in the direction of tech transfer. Dr. Patrick Akos from UNC Chapel Hill is engaged in a predictive analytics project surrounding student success. Dr. Gloria Watley from UNC Charlotte is working with several pilot campuses on a survey of engagement and inclusion with regard to both campus climate and curriculum design. Dr. Frank Mullins from NC A&T will soon begin on a study of faculty retention and HR processes, as well as shadowing several administrators. And finally, Dr. Tim Petty from NC State is deeply engaged in our online learning task force and academic planning. I'm excited to learn from all of them, and I hope they come away with a deeper sense of how the system pulls together for the greater good of our state. As always, it's a pleasure to be with you. I thank you for your time, for your work, and for your commitment to this university and the citizens of this state. Thank you.
Thank you, President Spellings. We will now consider the administrative action items listed as item 6 on today's agenda, and you will find those items in your folders. Are there any items that members of the board wish to have removed for discussion? Marty.
I don't need a discussion of it, but I'd like to register a no vote on
Well,
6C.
6C, well, we may not discuss it, but we will have to remove it and have a separate vote on that, but that's fine. Any other items? Okay, I'll now entertain a motion to approve the administrative action items by consent with the exception of item 6C and remembering that Mr. Long has a couple of items that he's going to not vote on.
So moved.
Have a motion, to have a second?
Second.
Have a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 6C. Do I have a motion to approve item 6C? Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion?
I'd like to know why Mark.
It's just it's an apartment development lease, one of the typical ones that we see where a foundation is the owner of the property and the university is leasing from it. The foundation has a fixed interest rate, and yet the university is paying annual escalations, which understand some of that covers operations, but some of that is on the base real estate, which is a fixed interest rate. So there's a spread there, and I didn't feel like I had enough information to vote yes for it.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We had one nay vote, and please record that. We will begin now with our committee reports, and I would like to ask Mr. Davenport to begin with the report of the Committee on Audit, Risk Management, and Compliance, or CARMAX, as Mr. Powers calls it.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Governors members, during its meeting Wednesday, the Committee on Audit, Risk Management, and Compliance received an update on recently received internal audit reports at UNCGA. In particular, Joyce Bonney, UNCGA's Chief Audit Officer, noted that recommendations have been made to improve travel and purchase card policies and procedures, as well as improve the review and monitoring of state-issued vehicles. Management was receptive to the recommendations, and Joyce will follow up on these internal audit results during the 2017 fiscal year. The committee also received the annual report of the Committee on Audit, Risk Management, and Compliance. The committee voted to accept the report for submission to the Board of Governors. The committee then received an informational report summarizing the financial statement audits of the university's major associated entities. Related to strategic planning, yesterday the committee approved the following definition of economic impact. Universities have an impact on state and regional economies through the students they attract and teach, the research they perform, the innovation they encourage, the people they employ, the services they offer, and the partnerships they build. The University of North Carolina can enhance that impact by focusing on graduate readiness to meet the state's long-term needs, investing in foundational research, speeding the application and translation of discoveries, and deepening partnerships that strengthen local communities and the state's economy. The committee also had a discussion on goals related to developing graduates and enhancing the innovation environment. In developing graduates, a key area of discussion was around the UNC system working with others so that North Carolina could exceed the national average for citizens with baccalaureate degrees. Citizens equipped to succeed in a knowledge-based economy, to work in teams with critical thinking skills, and with a strong work ethic and integrity. With regards to enhancing the innovation environment, a key area of discussion was for the UNC system to work with others to raise the per capita income to the national average by enhancing the innovation environment, which would lead to business development, job creation, and economic growth. Chairman Bissett, this is the audit court's report.
Thank you very much, Walter. Mr. Lampy, the report of the Committee on Budget and Finance.
Good morning, Chairman Bissett, Board of Governors members. During its meeting Tuesday, September 6th, the Committee on Budget and Finance considered 3 items, 2 of which were approved in your consent agenda and 1 of which was approved separately. We also reviewed the annual report of our committee concerning actions from July of 2005 through June 30th of 2016. That is on Board Vantage if you'd like to review it. Related to strategic planning, the committee approved the following definition for affordability and efficiency. Article 9, and I'll read that for you. Article 9, Section 9 of the North Carolina State Constitution requires that the General Assembly shall provide the benefits of the University of North Carolina and other public institutions of higher education as far as practicable be extended to the people of the state free of expense. That constitutional mandate encourages a working compact among the state's elected officials, taxpayers, and the university to deliver the university's multifaceted mission at the highest levels of quality in a cost-effective manner without regard to a student's ability to pay. And that is the definition we approved yesterday. The committee also discussed the following key areas. I'll read that list for you, and we're going to be narrowing that down to our list of goals, hopefully by the next meeting. The areas for consideration are construction cost, public-private partnerships, cap on tuition and fee increases, financial aid and student debt, back office consolidation, faster time to degree, operational flexibility for campuses, personnel cost, and a strategy to address upward mobility in specific segments of the North Carolina population. Finally, the Committee on Budget and Finance approved the expansion of the Millennial Campus at Appalachian State for a variety of student-centered buildings. That was also included on your consent agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. Report of the Committee on Educational Planning, Policies, and Programs. Anna Nelson.
Good morning. During our meeting this week, the Ed Planning Committee considered administrative items, including 2 new doctoral degree programs. These items were on the consent agenda approved earlier today, and to place this in context, these doctoral programs and all degree programs go through a very, very thorough vetting process that can take longer than 1 year. Last year, 16 new degree programs were approved, while 69 programs were either merged or discontinued. Related to strategic planning, the committee approved a definition of student success as a multifaceted construct of positive intellectual, personal, and social transformation facilitated by a high-quality university education. It includes the timely acquisition of a degree and the development of competencies, critical thinking, lifelong learning, technological mastery, resilience, effective communication, flexibility and collaboration, among others, for meaningful engagement in 21st century life, including but not limited to the workforce. The committee agreed upon 3 primary areas of focus: timely degree attainment, decreased achievement disparities, and skills development for the 21st century. The committee also received an informational report from Chancellor Staten and his colleagues regarding expansion plans at the Brody School of Medicine. Thank you. This concludes our report.
Thank you, Anna. Mr. Hinton, Committee on University Governance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During our telephone meeting on Wednesday, the Committee on University Governance received an update on the vacancy at Western Carolina University. There is a vacancy on the Board of Trustees due to a resignation there, and also an upcoming vacancy on the State Advisory Council on Indian Education. The liaisons, Rodney Hood for Western Carolina and myself for the State Advisory Council on Indian Education, are currently accepting and reviewing nominations for these two openings. So if you have suggestions, please get them to the liaison as soon as possible. The committee also received an overview of the 2017 Boards of Trustees selection process from Andrea Poole and had a discussion about the campus liaison roles in the selection process. Included in your packet in hot pink, I understand, is a copy of the nomination form that the liaisons will be using for this election and re-election cycle, a calendar of events, and a list of the liaisons. What we are requesting to make sure we try to keep this as formal as possible is that when you have a nomination for any of the boards upcoming, we're going to be working on those a lot over the next few months. Please get the nomination form or contact the liaison for that individual campus so we can start the process and keep some sort of uniformity to it. We appreciate that. The committee voted to accept the annual report of the Committee on University Governance for submission to the full body. Related to strategic planning yesterday, the committee approved the following definition of access. Access is the opportunity for all North Carolinians who are prepared for the associated rigorous learning experiences to pursue a university education. Providing North Carolinians access and encouragement to pursue higher education is not confined solely to helping students gain admittance to college. It also includes providing multiple access points into the university, academic, financial, cultural, and other knowledge-based services to help all students, but particularly for those who are underserved for any reason, aspire to enroll in and graduate from institutions that match their interests and capabilities. The committee also engaged in a robust discussion on the Chancellor's drafted goals, which included broadly closing and reducing demographic and socioeconomic participation gaps for North Carolinians, and developing flexible and evidence-based admission processes to allow each university in the system to achieve their access goals. In addition to two areas the chancellors brought forward for consideration, the board discussed possible goals areas around K through 12 and teacher prep to access academic readiness, as well as consideration of a broader goal. We had a great meeting yesterday, and I want to thank the chancellors and the members of the General Assembly who were there. I thought it was a tremendous exercise, and Chancellor Fulton and I were talking this morning about how it became a brainstorming session on things that we all think but very rarely talk about. So this has been a great process as far as I'm concerned. Dr. Chapman gave the committee an update on the university's plans to establish lab schools. And Mr. Chairman Bissett, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Hinton. I'd like to ask Mr. Mitchell the Younger to deliver the report
of the
Committee on Public Affairs.
Thank you, Chairman Bissett. I do want to take one moment, if I could. Yesterday was my birthday, and apparently the word got out, and Margaret, at her dinner with everyone last night, decided to honor me by telling everyone it was my birthday. I started getting texts at dinner with my own family about 7 o'clock. Margaret's honored you for your birthday, and I was thrilled by that. Then she went on, then the text started rolling in. She couldn't find anyone important born on your birthday. The best she could do was Bernie Sanders in pink. And of course, you all know, most of you know, I have 4 sons. One of them spoke up and said, "Dad, President Spellings missed someone." And I said, "Who?" He said, "The Virgin Mary." I went to Wikipedia, and sure enough, it said September 8th. And so you got to go Virgin Mary, Bernie Sanders, pink, Alex Mitchell. That's the order. So anyway, I'm sorry. The Committee on Public Affairs did not host a conference call earlier this week. Instead, we opted for a brief meeting yesterday. During the meeting, the committee approved the minutes and the 2015-16 annual report. The chair briefly discussed his presentation to the State and Federal Relations Council last week. We'll be back before you in future meetings to tell you about other legislative visits and other issues of interest that you want to hear about in coming months. Other than that, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to hear from Mr. Mitchell, the elder.
Oh, thank
from
you,
the report
Mr.
of the
Chairman.
Strategic Planning Committee.
I didn't bring my cane, but I'll try to limp up to the podium. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, more or less. At our August 31st committee meeting, in addition to approving the minutes of our last meeting and the annual report to the board, we discussed the definitions of the themes for strategic planning and recommended the versions that you saw in your board book yesterday and either adopted in a modified form. And then we discussed the plans for what would happen in yesterday's meetings. Obviously, those meetings have occurred, and I don't think there's any need to cover that. Instead, I'd like to talk about what's going to happen in the next 35 days. Andrew and Kelly and I met yesterday after the meetings, and we set out a rough plan for the next 34 days to get us ready for the October meetings, where you will be discussing the specific goals your committees want to send to the Strategic Planning Commission as what you recommend be adopted by the full board. During the first few days of next week, the GA staff lead for your committees will summarize the areas of comment on Chancellor's recommended goals that you talked about yesterday. The staff lead will also summarize topical areas discussed in your committee, whether related to a goal that was recommended by the chancellors or unrelated to any goal then in front of you. This should be finished by Tuesday or at the latest Wednesday noon. This document will be forwarded to the committee chairs not later than 2 p.m. on Wednesday. This is longer than Andrew had requested. Given the review process in GA, I lengthened it out some, which means that 2 p.m. on Wednesday is 2 p.m. on Wednesday. And we need to have it out by then. The committee chairs will receive this, and they will have it. We will ask them, and in fact, we're giving them a deadline too. We want it back by noon on Friday. That will be noon a week from today. At that point, Andrew and I will review it over the weekend. We'll make any additions, changes that we feel need to be made. And what we're going to be looking for is, first, overlap between the goals that are lodged in 2 or more committees, which, as people have discussed them and modified them, some overlappage has come in, and which committee should take jurisdiction of the topical area. That committee will be expected to take other committees' work and thoughts on the topic into consideration in formulating the statement of the goal they recommend to the board. So we would ask that if you're taking an area that 2 committees have covered and you're the committee chair of the receiving committee, you reach out to the folks on the other committee and get their thoughts and input. We'll give you the written information that's available, but you need to talk to them. Second, based on the topical areas discussed that are not in goals recommended by the chancellors, Andrew and I will recommend whether a new goal is needed and what the general topic and parameters of that goal would seem to be and which committee should take jurisdiction over it. And we will essentially assign it to one of the committees, the one that seems most appropriate. As an example of what I'm talking about, when we met yesterday in the Economic Impact Committee, last meeting of the day, there was a lot of discussion led by actually the legislators about outreach and about how there was really not a lot in in the plan to date about outreach, and they were very concerned about that. I was very pleased that what we were hearing from them was about their concern about access for areas that are economically challenged and rural, completion rates, cost, but also a lot about reaching out, about access, about reaching outside the university community and outside the site of the university campus to some of the more rural and challenged areas. And we've done a great job, I think, with some of that. I mean, NC State has for a long time had great extension services, particularly in agriculture. Our medical community at Chapel Hill and at East Carolina have both done a lot of outreach, and Appalachian have done a lot of outreach and setting up clinics, helping hospitals that are in our rural and challenged areas to meet their challenges. We're getting ready to open a new partnership for an Eastern North Carolina Comprehensive Cancer Center with UNC Cancer. And I might add, Representative Fraley, we have not come to the state for 1 cent of additional money for it. That's $50 million that we're going to raise and find without asking the state. So we're doing great stuff. But their view is, and they're right, we can do more. And one of the things that was very gratifying was they were talking about things like economic development. They were talking about the arts and why we're not reaching out more there. And I did make to Senator Barefoot the comment that we are happy to do that, but that takes money. So he challenged us to come forward with a plan that actually made sense and let them see what money they could find to help us do it. So I think that was just a really great exchange, and we're going to be putting a goal in on outreach because of that. We will evaluate whether goals as currently stated. I'm laughing because I walked in this morning, I said good morning to Matt, and he said, I know, specific and a timeline. So we will evaluate whether the goals are as currently stated meet the criteria of specificity of desired outcome and timing that we have asked all goals exhibit. I gather that message has gotten through. And if it's not, we'll note this and ask the committees with jurisdiction to address any deficiencies. This work by Andrew and myself will be forwarded to the full membership of each committee, not just the chairman, by Wednesday, September 21st, or at the latest Thursday, the 22nd of September. This will leave your committee 3 weeks between the time you get it in hand. Oh, I should stop there and say, our intention is to just send you what is relevant to your committee. I know that there are members of the board who are voracious readers and who have a commendable work ethic of wanting to see everything. So if you want to have more than just your committee, please let Andrew or Andrea know that, and we'll be glad to send you as many as you want, or all of them, whatever you want, but we will send you your committees. So that leaves you 3 weeks until October the 13th to work on these. It is highly unlikely that if there is no work done between the 22nd of September and the 13th of October, that there is any way the deadlines that we have currently, or I shouldn't say deadlines, the timeline that we have currently set out as our goal can be met. With that in mind, we have 2 requests and a suggestion. The first request is that each of you review the current goals and the theme areas your committee has been assigned and forward any further comments you would like to make to your committee chair and staff lead as quickly as possible. Second, we request that you really step back mentally and ask yourself if there are any additional goals, either in your theme area that should be put up for consideration, or in the theme area of another committee that you feel need to be considered and haven't been. If it's in your committee, please put those forward to your chair as quickly as you can. If it's in another committee's area, or it seems to be, please send those to the chair of that committee as quickly as possible. And here, time is truly of the essence. We need to get it all on the table. This is your plan. We want you to put your concerns forward and to be considered as goals. But because of the way we're trying to get this through, we need to get it all on the table now. And with, by the end of September, I sure hope we've heard every concern you've got and we can determine what needs to go into those goals. Our one suggestion concerns how the committees proceed in the 3 weeks prior to the next meeting. As I've said, it seems highly unlikely that if nothing is done between that date, the 22nd of September, and October the 13th, that there's any chance that we will meet our current timelines. So we would suggest that the committee chairs, and this is up to the committee chairs, either do one of two things. They hold a multi-hour meeting, it's not going to be an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes, it may be a half day, 3/4 of a day, where they go through the information that you will have received from Andrew and me on the current goals that are in front of you, and perhaps for at least one committee, at least one additional suggestion for a goal you need to craft. We won't try to craft it for you. You either hold a fairly long meeting on that to get it done, or in the alternative, another way to go about it is if the committee chairs wish to appoint subcommittees of small subcommittees of 2 or 3 people to take each of the goals, split it up among their committee members, so that those committee members can review them, think about them, make suggestions about them, get that to your full committee before the meeting and present at the committee meeting itself. Either one of those approaches will help expedite things. And without those, even though I can't tell you we're going to stay on the timeline because we've still got a lot of work to do and a lot of consideration, and we do not want you to send forward final recommended goals unless you're comfortable with them. But we would like to try to stay on the timeline or as close to it as possible. In the end, it's the Board of Governors plan, and you must be satisfied that we've arrived at the best possible plan. But that means a lot of work, and particularly a lot of work between September 22nd and October 13th. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I will stop and ask if there are any comments or questions.
Thank you, Champ. Any comments or questions for Champ?
Okay. My last comment is this. I want to inform, first I want to thank all the chancellors for their input as well as the members of the legislature. And I want to tell the chancellors that you should really be envious of Bill Roper because he's living your dream. Soon he will be able to put me in 3 weeks of complete isolation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Champ. I was going to use the term Mr. Mitchell the wiser, but I didn't know how the younger Mitchell would. And I do want to thank you for all your hard work on this committee.
Yes, sir.
You've done a yeoman's job. I would like to ask Laura Wiley for a report on the public comment session. Laura?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Bissett and Board of Governors members, on July 29th, 2016, the board conducted its second public comment session to hear from members of the university community and broader public about issues related to the university. We had members of the Board of Governors and staff representing each of the board's standing committees in attendance, as well as Chancellor Conway. During the session, board members heard from 5 speakers. The speakers' comments addressed a wide variety of issues, and we have followed up with each participant and have shared a link to the document which summarizes the topics raised and provides responses. You can find this document on the public comment section of our website. We have also shared with you the written comments that were provided during the meeting. These public comment sessions are a valuable way for the board to receive relevant input and improve transparency. I thank the board members who participated in the July session. As you know, we will have another public comment session following today's meeting. I thank you in advance to those of you who have agreed to attend. We will again have representation from each of the standing committees. I'm looking forward to hearing from our participants today. Thank you, Chairman Bissett. This concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning. It's been a good 2 days, and I want to thank all of you for your candid, productive discussions on the strategic plan yesterday. We have tremendous resources, as you know, in our staff, our chancellors, our faculty, and in these board members. And I have the full confidence that we can arrive at something we can all support and be proud of, and I want to thank all of you for your efforts. Before I begin my report, I'd like to welcome the Student Government Association representatives that are here. Could you please stand? Thank you. Thank you all very much. We appreciate your being here. I have just a few announcements today. We announced at our last board meeting that several of our university athletes and alumni, 25 to be exact, competed in the Olympic Games last month in Rio. These individuals represented 8 countries in 7 sports, and I hope that all of you were able to tune in and watch some of these events. Over the 3 weeks in Reno, UNC students and alumni brought home 5 medals in track and field, swimming, and men's basketball, including 3 gold, 1 silver, and 1 bronze. So congratulations to all of our athletes. I'd now like to I'd like to recognize one of our own members. As you know, or you may not know, Laura Wiley's birthday was on Wednesday. And fortunately for her, she got to spend most of the day in committee telephone calls. Now, Laura, I haven't had an opportunity to see who was born on your birthday, but I'm sure that during this, somebody will Google that. Laura, could you come up here to the podium, please? Just stand right here now. We've got a couple of people who've shown up here today.
Oh, my goodness. I've been Shanghai.
Hey, Bruce. Yes, you have.
That's my husband.
I know. I've been in touch with him.
That's my son.
I know. Laura has a long history of esteemed service to her community and to our state. And since Bruce and Adam have already joined us at the podium, I won't have to go into that. As you know, Laura's been a member of the UNC Board of Governors since 2013. From 2005 to 2011, Laura served as a member of the State House of Representatives, representing the state's 61st Legislative District and serving on the Education and Education Appropriations Committee. She has also served her local community, the city of High Point, and just as a coincidence, that's where I grew up, in High Point. Yay. So she's served High Point in a number of ways. She served on the city council, and she's currently serving as a commissioner of the High Point Housing Authority. The governor was unable to be with us today, but he has awarded Laura the Order of the Longleaf Pine.
Oh,
The order, well, we're going to give you about 45 minutes at the end to address this. The Order of the Longleaf Pine is among the most prestigious awards conferred by the Governor of North Carolina. Established in 1963, It is awarded to persons for exemplary service to the state of North Carolina and their communities that is above and beyond the call of duty and which has made a significant impact and strengthened North Carolina. It's my honor and privilege today to present this award to Laura Wiley for her extraordinary public service to High Point and to the state of North Carolina. Now, the award states, the rank of Ambassador Extraordinary, privileged to enjoy fully all rights granted to members of this exalted order, among which is the special privilege to propose the following North Carolina toast in select company anywhere in the free world. So I'd ask you all to stand, and I'm going to lead you in the toast. Join in, please. Here's to the land of the longleaf pine, the summer land where the sun doth shine, where the wheat grows strong and the strong grow great. Here's to down home, the old North State. Let's congratulate Laura one more time. That's great.
Two words. I think this is going to be the rare occasion where you will find Laura Wiley absolutely speechless. Thank you. I think my husband and son may have had a fine hand in this, but it is a great honor to receive the Order of the Longleaf Pine, and for me, even greater to receive it in the company of peers, colleagues, and most importantly, all of you who are friends. Thank you so much.
Okay, that was great. In closing, I only have one other item, and I want to remind you that our next meeting is scheduled for October 13th and 14th here in Chapel Hill. And we're going to be doing something else that week. We're going to be attending the inauguration of President Spellings, and we're going to be celebrating our university on those 2 days. So I look forward to seeing you all here for that great event. Thank you very much. I just did get a report that September 7th is the birthday of Buddy Holly and Elizabeth I of England. So you're in much better company than that.
I think so. I'll get that one.
Okay. Secretary Perry, I will now entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I'm sorry, this is not nearly as entertaining nor interesting. Sit back, it's going to take a few minutes. I move that we go into closed session to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential under Article 7 of Chapter 126 of the North Carolina General Statutes and 20 U.S.C. 12332G and 34 CFR Part 99, or not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes. Consult with our attorney to protect the attorney-client privilege, to consider and give instructions concerning a potential or actual claim, administrative procedure, or judicial action for the following cases: Carcano et al. Versus McCrory et al. And United States versus North Carolina et al. Establish or instruct the staff or agents concerning the negotiations of the amount of compensation or other terms of an employment contract, to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, or condition of appointment of a public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee, pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143 through 318.11a, 1, 2, 3, and 6.
Thank you, Secretary Perry. That was pretty exciting.
Want to hear it again?
No. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? We will go into closed session. Thank you. back into open session. I want you all to take note of the time. It's well before noon.
Not adjourning yet, are we?
So I'd like to call on Mr. Parrish for the report of the Committee on Personnel and Tenure.
Thank you, sir. Open session minutes or report from our meeting. Chairman Bissett and Board of Governors members, this report covers open session items discussed during the Committee on Personnel and Tenures meetings on Tuesday, September 6th and Thursday, September 8th. On September 6th, the committee received brief updates from both Academic Affairs and Human Resources, Dr. Gonzalez, which discussed the status of the faculty salary survey. Mr. Brody discussed the status of the various legislatively mandated salary increases and bonuses. He also briefed us on ongoing efforts system-wide to comply with the impending changes to the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act's regulations, which will significantly increase the salary threshold at which most employees become eligible for overtime compensation. The changes take effect on December 1, 2016, and we expect to have clear reports on the total cost to the university in early 2017. The committee also received an informational report on personnel actions delegated to the President, reviewed, and unanimously approved the committee's annual report. Mr. Useshin presented us with a recommendation to execute an amendment to the UNC optional retirement program, which will enable the UNC system to allocate excess revenue to plan participants, as well as to continue to use a portion for reasonable and necessary plan expenses. This model of revenue sharing has become common industry practice and is recommended by the UNC Systems Benefit Committee. After brief discussion, the committee unanimously voted to present this recommendation to the full board for vote. The proposed amendment is included in your folder. On behalf of the committee, I now move that the board approve the amendment titled Amendment Number 1, Optional Retirement Program of the University of North Carolina. Recommendation from the committee, sir.
Thank you. You've heard the committee's recommendation and motion. Any discussion, any questions from Mr. Parrish? If not, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Related to strategic planning, yesterday the committee considered and endorsed a reworked definition of excellent and diverse institutions. Based on the committee's feedback, the definition has been amended and reads as follows. Institutions that both individually and collectively as a system are distinct and mission-focused, high-performing, and committed to the fullest development of all students, faculty, and staff. The committee also had a discussion of the following key areas: finding and keeping an excellent, diverse workforce, leveraging our school's distinct missions, and creating successful environments and cultures. Following an energetic conversation and some redirection, we are now prepared to revise these 3 initially proposed goals and continue our discussion at the next meeting. And Mr. Strategy Chair, I heard your direction and we intend to fully comply. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. Before the one final item, I think Mr. Cotis had a matter he wanted to comment he would like to make.
I don't know if you all saw this week, but it's called Online Course Exchanges, Models of Efficiency. It came out from the Pope Center, and it's praising the efforts of the universities and Matthew Raskoff and his team to put together these online course exchanges. Basically, it's allowing students greater choices and the ability to pick up classes from other institutions within the UNC system. So just wanted to recognize that. It's, it's really leading edge, and we're making great progress in that. And wanted to thank the universities for working together, and specifically Matthew Raskoff's team.
Thank you, Marty.
Marty, you might also want to note that our committee, Excellence University Institutions, noted that we needed to make sure we made some statement about online learning.
Terrific.
Okay, Henry, this is not about the football game.
No, it is.
Okay,
Well, yes, it is, actually. Earlier, Mr. Chairman, you introduced the SGA chairs that were here. The ECU SGA chair was in the overflow room, but he's now made it into the room. I wanted to give Ryan Beeson a chance to stand up and be recognized.
Thank you, Ryan.
He's doing
Thanks
a great
for
job.
being here. Okay, I have one final item. We have our public comment session, which will begin at 10 minutes after 12. And I think we're all, I hope as many of you as can will be there. They've been excellent, excellent sessions, and I want to thank Laura Wiley again for sort of ramrodding those sessions. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. See you in October.
You kind of let it get away.
By the financial contributions of viewers like you who support the UNC TV network.